Ashes to Empire, the story of Gaurav and Shivani. In the heart of Bhagalpur, a city worn at the edges by time but rich in old tales, lived a man named Gaurav. He was the son of a washerman, raised in a tiny, crumbling shack by the riverside. His father, Ramdas, was a proud but broken man who died with soap-scarred hands and debt in his name. Gaurav, just 17 then, buried his father with borrowed coins and a promise whispered to the ashes, "I'll build something, even if the world calls me nothing." But promises mean little to a world that sees only poverty. Gaurav tried everything, apprenticing at a mechanic shop, working at a tea stall, hauling sacks at the mandi. He was diligent, honest, but invisible. The rich scorned him. The middle class avoided him. And the poor, well, they were fighting their own wars. Only one person ever looked at Gaurav and saw more. Shivani. A schoolteacher's daughter with fierce eyes and a smile that could quiet storms. She saw in Gaurav not a beggar, but a builder. Not a struggler, but a survivor. Against her father's furious protests, against neighbors' ridicule, she married Gaurav beneath a banyan tree with only the river as witness. For a time, love was their wealth. They lived in a single room behind a welding shop, sharing one meal a day and dreams too big to fit their four walls. Shivani taught in the mornings, stitched blouses at night. Gaurav worked wherever he could, driver, delivery boy, even selling pens on trains. They held each other close through every insult, every slammed door, every rejection. Then came the night that changed everything. Gaurav had spent a week preparing for an investor pitch for a small startup idea, solar-powered carts for rural vendors. He had borrowed clothes, stayed up copying data charts by candlelight. Shivani had skipped meals to pay for a prototype. But when he arrived at the business club, they laughed. Literally. Laughed at his shoes. His accent. His trembling hands. One man said, "You smell like sweat and desperation." Another added, "Beggars don't build businesses. They carry them on their heads." That night, Gaurav didn't go home. He sat by the river until sunrise, rage and shame eating through his soul. He thought of quitting. He thought of leaving. But Shivani found him and said something that would echo through the years. If the world spits on you, wipe your face, and build higher. Make them crane their necks just to look at you. What followed were years of war, against hunger, humiliation, and hopelessness. Gaurav started collecting discarded batteries and solar panels from junkyards. He learned circuitry on borrowed library books. He built one cart. Then two. He sold them at cost, then at profit. One day, a small NGO noticed his work and partnered with him. The carts multiplied. Gaurav trained boys who once begged with him. Shivani handled the accounts. Slowly, silently, the roots of something powerful began to grow. By year 7, Gaurav's startup, Surya Paths, had provided 10,000 solar carts across Bihar and Jharkhand. News channels picked up the story of the Solar Rickshaw King. Awards followed. So did offers. And then, so did they. The same businessmen who once ridiculed him came knocking, now in suits, now with rehearsed smiles. "We'd love to invest, Gaurav ji. We were wrong about you. Let's work together." Some even apologized. Shivani watched him carefully then. "What will you do?" she asked one night, as they stood on the terrace of their new 3-story home. Gaurav didn't answer at first. His mind played memories like film reels, the laughter, the slurs, the empty stomachs, the tears Shivani wiped in the dark. He could ruin them. He had the power now. He could make them beg like he once did. But then he looked at Shivani, her face still radiant in the moonlight, still full of belief. "No," he said quietly. "They turned me into fire. But I won't turn into ash." Gaurav accepted the investments, but with a twist. He set up a parallel program. For every rupee invested by a corporation, 1 rupee would go into a fund for poor youth entrepreneurs. The rich would have to sponsor the dreams of the poor. A poetic justice. Soon, Surya Paths became more than a company. It became a movement. Slums turned into solar-lit colonies. Girls walked safely at night. Young boys who once peddled rags now designed eco-carts in workshops. Gaurav never forgot his roots. He built schools, funded widow pensions, and every year on his father's death anniversary, he gave free carts to 100 families. But no matter how high he rose, he walked with the same humility. At award functions, he still wore the same worn watch Shivani gave him on their first anniversary. Years passed. One winter morning, a journalist asked Gaurav, "What made you succeed when so many others like you failed?" He smiled gently, glancing at Shivani, who stood across the hall talking to a group of young women. "Because I had one person," he said, "who believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." And so, the legend of Gaurav and Shivani became a story told not with gold, but with grit. A story whispered in classrooms, boardrooms, railway stations, and tea stalls. A story that proved, you can be born into dust and still rise like the sun.